Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. It's like I'll use an occult symbol and then I won't remember what it means or something. It's like at that time for months it seemed so personal and so connected, and then I just don't remember it at all.
What's like
But
the symbolist movement in art? I forget where that was, but they would just use a bunch of symbols that didn't necessarily mean anything to anybody else, but they were very personal to them, and it would really inform the intensity of their work. At least I think.
what the symbolists? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I didn't. Oh, that's something I'm not familiar with. I mean, I dropped out of art school halfway through art history, so I was like, I think I was in like Egyptian, ancient Egypt period and stuff like that. I
Uh,
mean, I love realism, and
yeah.
I've been to plenty of art museums. I really enjoy art, but I don't like to think about it too much. I don't like to think like, oh, this is the Cubist period, and I just
Right.
either like it or I don't like it.
I'm mostly the
Um,
same way. This is just something that Jill told me about because she said it like really applied to the sort of things we were doing at the time, like that thing that you saw when I was a drag, just like sort of like deeply surreal and bizarre things that aren't really. It's like a dream, I guess. It's like very dream based, like these very personal things that you can't really explain, but they mean something to you. Sort of, I think was sort of the the gist of that movement or period.
well, the surrealist movement and the Dadaist movement to some extent,
Mm.
that definitely inspires me. I mean, I like to know more about the artist when I'm looking at a painting. It
Yeah.
does help. Of course, Salvador Dali used eggs and grasshoppers, and flaming giraffe was a very common thing for him. And I guess grasshoppers represented his distance from his father, and stuff like that. Ants. I mean, I've gone to the Dali Museum in St. Petersburg. I've seen his pieces, his masterworks that are like 30 feet by 30 feet tall.
Yeah.
I love his stuff. And it was during a period of time where Freud and Carl Jung were doing their thing, and I think it should be the primary art movement of history, as far as I'm concerned, because that's what art in general should be about, intuition, and
Right.
that's the best way to do it is to just think about what symbols represent to you. Like, for instance, you have Magritte, who did a lot of reflection type stuff. He did a lot of like concept stuff, just basically like how I look in the mirror, or how I see myself as it relates to others and stuff like that. But he did a painting called The Lovers, and it was two people that were kissing, but they were draped in like clear uh, linen, just white clear linen, like a sheet of linen that was see through. And you know, it has its striking elements alone, but it also helps to know that his mother died, and I think she was drowning. She died, and her body was found in the water, covered in some kind of translucent linen. So
Hmm.
it has much more depth that way when you know that about
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Well, I guess about covers it if you want to go to sleep finally.
I'm not going to go to sleep,
Uh,
but whatever you want to do.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to make it too long for just for a bonus thing. This could be on
Yeah, that's
YouTube.
cool. I mean, I'm glad I got a chance to talk about surrealism, because I wanted to say that at the end of the interview the last time we did an interview, and I forgot or whatever. But yeah, I appreciate it again, and
Yeah, no problem.
it's always good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. I mean, thank you, of course, for talking to me all these times now. It's been basically your month on this podcast.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you interviewing Bryan Lewis Saunders, because I can't wait to hear it.
Oh
And
yeah, I thank you for
I,
introducing me to him because I wasn't familiar with him, and he's amazing.
yeah, I mean, I've read his interviews, but I can't even imagine what it's like to hear an interview with him.
He's a
Uh,
lot
that
calmer than I expected. He's very calm and very thoughtful. It wasn't at all what I was expecting. It's a nice southern accent.
Yeah, I mean it's really paradoxical. I mean, considering what he's been through, and he lives in. Well, last time I was in touch with him and knew where he lived and all that stuff, he was living in a kind of assisted living place where there was just a lot of poor people going crazy and burning things, and there was bed bug problems and all kinds of. He's just talking about all this chaos that's going on around him. People are getting killed and stuff like that, and he has this calm, mild-mannered voice.
Yeah. Yeah, which is sort of why I like the thing you sent me to compliment it too, because he does all these dark and intense things, so it will be nice to give it more of a, I don't know, like a dream-like sort of thing to him. I'm not entirely sure how to describe it, but I think that'll complement his voice and his like intensely dark stories that he's just very casually whittling off. Not whittling, but whatever, off really nicely.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for him.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy for me to hear that stuff, but it's what makes him who he is. I mean, he talking about symbolism. He's got some really elaborate stuff going on with some of his. I mean, take aside the most popular thing about taking self-portraits while on different kinds of drugs and stuff. Right. He's got like paintings where different segments of the paintings represent a different part of his body, like this is the liver, and the liver has its own dialogue and the spleen, and I mean, maybe my memory is off because I just saw it online. I don't own it or anything. I don't know what art book it may have come in or anything like that, but.
Yeah, I don't think I knew about that. I talked to him though about this book he's released, and he has it online for free as well. Where he took these psychological tests that he had to take as a child, or into teenagers maybe, where they would show him a picture with people with blank faces. The test I've actually taken as well, at different points in my teen years, and he took those drawings and then he drew his interpretations of what's happening over them, and then wrote his memories of originally taking those tests and then what he sees in them now.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a very intense thing, so I was really curious about just all of it. I don't remember where I started or how I would start describing any of it now, but yeah, he's a really interesting dude.
Do you remember what it's called, or can you send me a link to that or something?
Yeah, sure. It's on his website. I'll pull it. I'll find out wherever it was, and I'll link you to it. It's really cool. It's
cool, man.
Surreal.
I appreciate it.
No problem. And it has this like little cartoon image of himself throughout it. That's really nice looking.
Another thing that's interesting about him is that he didn't start making art until he was 26.
Really?
Yeah, I guess he just had no interest until he was about 26 or so. I'm not sure if any event caused that to happen, or I don't know if he took classes at that point or what, but yeah, he just decided to pick it up when he was 26.
Wow.
And for me, I was drawing when I was able to walk. When I was able to crawl, even I was drawing. So
yeah.
And most people are like that. I thought that they start drawing early, and that's how it goes. But
yeah, I would have never guessed, because he's he very clearly like has a very steady hand and like a very clear image of what he's doing going into it. Like he's very, very articulate, I guess, in his drawings.
Yeah, he's got a good balance of freedom and technical skill.
Yeah,
it's a freedom of abstract thought, but it's also the ability to actually portray it, instead of just being expressionism or whatever.
Right.
Which is also, it's all right, it's fine and good and everything, but that balance is I covet that kind of stuff. I've always been frustrated because when I was a kid, I used to be able to draw with both of my hands.
Oh, you were
even
ambidextrous, I think is the word.
Ambidextrous.
Yeah.
And I had a teacher tell me not to do that anymore. I had to choose a hand because my handwriting was bad. So I chose my left hand, and I think it was just what I was using at that time because my right hand was tired or something. But I used to write with both hands. I used to draw with both hands at the same time.
Wow.
And I really regret letting that teacher tell me what to do, basically, because my handwriting is still awful. But imagine, being able to use both parts of your brain. You're utilizing. I mean, of course, the myth of left and right brain is just kind of a abstract symbolism kind of thing. It's not really truly that way, but
yeah,
you're still using different faculties of your brain when you're using different hands to do something. And I just can't imagine what I would have turned out like if it was like. I mean, I probably would be able to float by now or something.
yeah, that'd be fucking intense. Just to see how that would manifest in the drawing. Just watching those two different takes at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the reason I mention it is because I always like when people have that really, really free thinking concept, but they can actually apply it. Like, it's not just about realism or necessarily technical aptitude, but it's also, it doesn't look like a kid's drawing, which is what I tend to prefer, honestly. I tend to prefer like stuff that looks like a little kid would draw it, unless it's stuff like Bryan Lewis Saunders, because he's got that perfect balance, as I said before.
Yeah, but he's an outsider artist that's very technically proficient.
Yeah, and he actually makes a living at it, and so I'm happy for him.
Yeah, when I mentioned that, he said, "Well, I wouldn't call it a living."
But it's about as good as a lot of people can do in America, anyway. I mean,
right.
I think he said somewhere in interviews, he says, in Europe I perform in museums and I play, huge festivals, and in America I play house parties.
Yeah.
America's so different, the idea of a government-supported artist is kind of like a guy on food stamps and, occasional unemployment or whatever. But,
right.
In other countries, the museums are free and artists are supported and they're paid well and they're given a ride everywhere and free food and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was talking to an Australian guy about the radio out there, because I love the radio programs they have out there, and like the history of radio is just so fucking interesting. Like the things that government will fund, and the same thing in England, but right now I'm obsessed with Australia for whatever reason. And but so the way he put it is like, because the government is funding the radio, they have to have something for everything. So they have the top 40, they have the rock, they have like the opera, the jazz, the news, and they have the stuff for the freaks. So they have like the audio collages and the fucking just the weird psychedelic radio plays and just whatever other shit that we can't get here because there's no money to go into it. There's no way to be able to invest that much time in it, because you have to get paid after a while to be able to put that much time and effort into something like that. Also,
yeah, I mean, you can't do it part-time.
Yeah.
But, to give an example, like a direct experience example of that, my radio show was syndicated in Croatia. And it was for a time, it was syndicated on a top 40 radio station. It was aired at, I think it was 8 p.m. on Wednesday evenings in Croatia. And, sometimes I would just play, like, shortwave radio recordings all night. Or sometimes I'd just, like, I'd put on a silent film and watch it while I was on the radio. I mean, it was totally free, you know, and I know I had more audience in Croatia than I did in Chicago.
Right.
Because, I mean, I listen to this stuff during the day, and it's top 40. It's fun top 40. It's like, it's not the same stuff that you hear a million times like in America, but I mean, it was just people having fun with like pop music. You heard plenty of stuff that I actually like that's pop, like David Bowie and stuff like T-Rex and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
you had some dance music, and but it's actually a kind of vibrant and vital thing that they were doing at that time. And when they tried to be more like America and more accessible, commercial, whatever, the guy that was running the station, he made his own station in an abandoned bomb shelter in Croatia, and I continued to be syndicated from a bomb shelter in Croatia. And he got funding. It was a non-for-profit, and that was how he was making a living for a while. running a radio station out of a non-for-profit bomb shelter.
Nice.
So I mean, that's not even strictly Europe. It's the Balkans or whatever. But it's much different. Especially before the Euro took over for them. But imagine what else there's going on in Europe. I mean, I know there are places. There's free-form radio stations that have been around since the 80s. I don't remember the name of one of them right now, but that one was in in Germany. I think it was an old kind of bomb shelter type situation, an old cavern, and it was totally free-form, and it was like it had the same funding. I mean, I think they had advertisements on it, of course, but it was basically like a free-form radio station in America. Probably more free, of course. I'm sure there was swearing,
right.
Stuff like that.
And less.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I mean, I just coming back to what I was saying. It's like, I don't knock an artist that goes on food stamps. I mean, if they need to do that to continue to do their art, go for it. I don't think they're a leech on the society. I think that's just an American conservative mentality.
Oh yeah.
There's people that are just paid to do art. I mean, I don't even know what the criteria is for how much they must produce. But in Switzerland, especially, there's people that are just, I don't know how much they produce, but I guess maybe they have a gallery exhibition once a year or something like that, and it doesn't even matter how many people buy their stuff. Their government to support them anyway.
I mean, you see films coming out of Canada or the UK, and you even just see or whatever other European nations, you'll see them thanking whatever fund in the country from the government for helping fund just regular films too. It's so weird what's happened in this country where just there's no money to put into anything, but including art. And I don't know. I mean, at least we have podcasts and we have the internet now, so there's more opportunities for people to get their stuff out there at least. But there does need to be a way for people to get paid more than the 1/100th of a cent from Spotify every few months.
Well, the American thing to do is squeeze people.
Yeah.
It's just like you cannot sustain whatever it is, $1 trillion economy when everybody's not working that much. You have to have people that are constantly in debt and constantly overworked and constantly convinced that they have to keep buying things in order to be happy.
Yeah.
I don't see that much mentality. Not that I've ever been to Europe or anything, but I've got friends that have moved to Europe and they talk to me quite a bit. They send me pictures. I have friends in Spain and Germany and Denmark and stuff like that, and it's completely different. There's not that much emphasis on materialism, but in America it's about worship these celebrities, constantly be in fear. You're always going to get a disease. You're always going to be attacked by terrorists. I'm not a conspiracy theorist per se, but I don't stand on any ground as far as liberals or conservatives go, because I disagree with both of them. But generally speaking, a conservative thinks that the system will help fix the people because the people are inherently fucked up. And liberals will say that the system fucked up people, and the only thing that needs to be fixed is the system, and the people will stop being fucked up if the system is going to stop being fucked up. And I just personally think that people are fucked up and the system is fucked up, and I don't stand any ground about idealism and saying okay, if we change this, everything will be better. I just don't have that kind of optimism. I just have to do my own thing and lead by example. But that was a long tangent. I'm sorry. I didn't
even... I'll put this up as 2 parts. I'll put up the part with Bryan Saunders and you, and I'll put the second part of just us rambling about whatever other stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah, that's cool. I could do that for a while. Are you drinking beer?
No, I actually need to go about and buy it as soon as we're done.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm not drinking beer either. I'm just, I've done an interview that didn't get published because I think it was because I started drinking, and then after 6 hours, I don't think it was very printable. But
at the 6 hour point or leading up to the 6 hour point? It was
Do you
like,
want to know the whole story? The whole story is actually kind of curious and interesting. It's like I went a long period without drinking. It was not a big deal. It was like, I don't drink that much. I'm in my 30s and I don't like hangovers and et cetera, et cetera. But when I was drinking in my 20s, it was gin and vodka and neutral spirits and whatnot. And I never really cared for whiskey. So, a couple of years later, I was like, okay, let's try this whiskey. And it was so strange because I could drink whiskey like it was nothing. And I literally would sound fine. I would never slur. I would never stagger. I could drink a whole bottle in one night, and I would never, ever have a situation of any kind. Like, there would be no concern. I could clean my apartment. I could write a book. I could do whatever I want. But I slowly started to realize that the more I drank, I didn't slur, I didn't stagger, but I would start having these stories that weren't real. And I don't want to call them lies. I wouldn't be appropriate to call them lies. It's just that I would mishmash my memories to a point that, sometimes the memories would just be mixed up with my imagination and I wouldn't even realize it. So actually that interview would be kind of curious as like a study of that, but he didn't end up publishing it. But I told him I'd fix everything and make sure all of it was accurate too, but, who wants to transcribe a 6-hour interview of a drunk guy or whatever the case may be?
Just a way for him to fix all the facts from it. From like I can't even imagine how many words that would end up being.
Yeah, speaking of whiskey and transcribing interviews, I did an interview with somebody that was 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
And every night I sat down with a bottle of whiskey during that period of time. Every night for 6 days. I think it was technically 5.5, if you want to call it, like 6-hour shifts of drinking whiskey and transcribing this interview. And, that's what I needed to do, to sit in front of my computer for that long.
Yeah.
And, there was never really a flaw with it. The guy read the transcripts and he said it was great. There was never any slacking or anything like that, after a bottle of whiskey. So, that's kind of proof of what I was saying, which people find it hard to believe. But I stopped doing that because I started realizing that while I didn't have any hangovers or drunkenness or anything, I don't like lying. One of the things that's about me is I'm not very good at lying, even when I try my hardest. So I don't like to lie, and and generally, it's just how I am. I just tend to be an honest person. If you do astrology, it's like my rising sign is Sagittarius. I just don't understand any other option other than being honest. It's like I can't function on that level. When people get mad about me being honest, even if I try my damnedest to be kind, I'm just absolutely confused because all I'm trying to do is be honest, which is all I can do, And so there's all these social situations that I get myself in awkward positions. But long story short, that was the end of my drinking days. Okay. Now it's extremely moderate,
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my moderate, but just for various reasons. I don't even remember them right now. I don't know. My mind's all scattered. But
well, I don't know what your job is. I don't know how well you can operate with a hangover, or if you even get hangover. Some people never do. But
yeah.
If I drink,
sorry, go ahead.
If I drink much, I can't sleep. So that's ultimately the thing for me is like if I have more than 4 beers in 3 hours or something, I can't sleep. So
like you can't go to sleep, or like you just can't stay asleep.
Sometimes I can't go to sleep. Sometimes if I do go to sleep, it's like for half an hour, and then I'm wide awake. And it took me a long time to figure that out. I did have insomnia. I still consider myself a recovering insomniac because it still comes back. But
right.
I was trying to help the problem by getting trashed in my 20s, and it only made it worse because I would only sleep for a maximum of 2 hours, and then I'd just be really, really hungover. So, that I had to stop doing that. That wasn't the remedy at all. And at that time, I tried all kinds of stuff. I mean, I tried Ambien, and I was bouncing off the walls for 3 days. I tried valerian root, and it just wouldn't allow my brain to function. I mean, I might be able to sleep for 4 hours or something, but I just could not function on valerian root. Like, it was as if I was on serious drugs.
Jeez.
Being on valerian root. So, yeah, meditation was the only thing that worked, and that didn't happen until 2011. So I went a good 11 years or maybe even 12 years of just like total insomnia. I mean, I went a week without sleep. I went a month where I only slept on the bus to work because the bus went to the end of the line for me to go to work, and I would fall asleep, and then, you know, the bus would stop and I'd wake up.
Jeez.
I wish I went on tour at that time because I found that I was very, very, very good at sleeping on buses, even though I couldn't sleep in a comfortable bed and all that stuff.
I think it was just like the rocking, almost like being a child, like just the subtle shaking and rocking back and forth.
I think it's more about timing. Like, I'm not too good at being on time, and I start to generate a bit of an anxiety about it because I have to really focus to be on time.
Yeah.
But if I'm on a bus, it's like, and the bus is going to stop, and I'm not going to have to worry about missing my stop. Or, you know, if I'm on a Greyhound bus, you know, the bus is either going to go slow or it's going to go fast, but there's nothing I can do about it either way. And if I get off the bus 14 hours after I was supposed to, it's going to be no different what I do on the bus. You know, I either sleep or I do other things on the bus. You know, so I think that's just a mental thing where when I'm on tour, even just, you know, staying on somebody's couch or something, it's much better for me to sleep. I don't know why, but anyhow,
yeah. That should probably do it for for now. We've been talking for about 45 minutes now.
Well, I don't want to leave it on my complaining about my insomnia.
Okay, well, what's one thing you want to end it on, if anybody even listens to this whole part of it?
Well, no, I was going to say that, you know, you should open up a beer and we'll have a conversation, but, you know, I don't know if you want to end it, or I thought you were going to put it up as a bonus thing or something like that.
No, I am. I do have to go, actually, to the store, though, to buy stuff. Also, it's getting later and later. I haven't eaten yet and everything.
Oh, yeah, okay, so you want to have enough time to get drunk before you go to sleep and go to work. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I had to go to sleep. I think I've told you I had to go to sleep pretty early. So I had to wake up at like 6:30 in the morning to get there on time. To get there relatively on time.
Okay. Well, I did want to say that another thing that's weird about Europe is that you know, they have radio plays. People make money.
Yeah.
Signing and doing sound for radio plays.
Yeah, they're amazing.
I mean, that's like tap dancing for Americans, you know, as far as I'm concerned, radio plays. I mean, contemporary radio plays, that's just amazing to me.
Yeah, and they're so good, too. Like, you just listen to, like, the comedy ones. Like, shows like The Mighty Boosh started off as a radio play, and Flight of the Conchords, and also Matt Berry has one where he plays, like, a hypnotherapist. And it's just like this surreal comedy, and they're fucking amazing. It sucks we don't have them.
It's in English. You should send me that thing with the hypnotherapy stuff.
Sure. There's a whole one of them on YouTube. Also, I'll send you this Australian radio play from the 70s. It was it was heavily influenced by Hunter S. Thompson's books, like the Fear and Loathing books, and it's so fucking good.
Well, I like Hunter Thompson a lot. I've got his books. But anyhow, that's it's like the joke lands. The guy I sent you the podcast for.
Yeah.
I heard, you know, it may not be accurate, but I heard that he makes a living doing radio plays. You know, he's got children, he's got a family, and he makes noise music and does radio plays for a living. I mean, that's just fascinating to me.
And he's in England?
I thought he was in Germany now.
Okay.
I thought maybe he was in Belgium before, but I think for sure he's in Germany now. Yeah, that guy, and if I know I've mentioned Einstürzen and Neubauten before, right?
Maybe, but the words aren't sticking already. So.
Well, it's a hugely famous experimental band from the 80s in Germany. They used concrete mixers and power tools and stuff in their early performances, and they generally just make music with unconventional instruments in a way that's pretty much indicative of the development of the genre of industrial music. But there's a guy that left in 1995 because they're going too pop, and he was the guy that was hitting things with hammers and doing metal percussion, and he was hurting himself the most because he was kind of the percussionist that's banging on like steel blades and all kinds of stuff. He was the guy that was operating, chains and they set gasoline fires while they're performing and stuff. So this guy, he left the band in 1995, and he does radio plays, and I haven't listened to one of them yet, but he has put it out on CD. And it's kind of some of the radio play stuff is on CD, and it's pretty good. His name is FM Einheit.
Okay, I'll have to look that up because I'm really into radio plays right now and just sort of experimental radio in general. But which we don't really have out here, as you mentioned, unfortunately.
Not in the form of radio plays, but if you do like that stuff, FM Einheit did like a rendition of Faust. I think it's called Radio Inferno. And he did another one called. Yeah. I'm sure it's on iTunes or something like that. It was distributed pretty. I also want to say that it's like it's not necessarily a radio play, and it doesn't have anything to do with Australia, but there's this British miniseries that I did an entire record's worth of material based on the source material of that miniseries. It was like 7 episodes. And it's based on a little town that I'm finding out was actually a real town. I just found out about it, that it's like a Stonehenge thing, but it's a town that's completely surrounded by a stone circle. And the circle in this miniseries is like it's like they're actual people. And at a certain time, moves or orbit or a certain eclipse or something like that, a light goes into the house of the man who owns the whole town, and it creates more people who are actually stone people that turn into stone at night or something. It's a really crazy thing, but I'm finding out that it was actually a place, and there are all these crazy Celtic carvings of like horses around this place from God knows when. It could be the 17th century, it could be ancient times, but it has the vibe of a radio play because it's a 70s British miniseries. It's from like 1971. Okay. That's what made me think of it anyway. I mean, it's kind of a loose association for sure, but you should definitely check that out. I mean, it's on YouTube. You could probably, I personally rented the DVD on Netflix, but I'm sure it's on YouTube.
Oh, it's video?
What's that?
Wait, you're saying it's video? It's like it was on TV?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was when I say it was a miniseries, like it was something like a sitcom, except for it was really occult-oriented and bizarre.
Huh.
I mean, I figured you'd like it, but I did kind of hijack that conversation, I guess.
No, it's fine. I was just confused when you suddenly said DVD. I thought maybe you meant CD, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I should have been more clear. But there's actually going to be a release of it where it's like the stuff that I did with it. The soundtrack is it's very choral, but it was, of course, in the early 70s, so it's like people are trying to do this choral stuff and be kind of medieval, but then they also do scat, like jazz, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's also this like guttural screaming and and it's just the soundtrack. Like the whole soundtrack is just vocalism, and so I did a 40 minutes worth of material. It's going to come out on a label, Blast, that is Blake Edwards' label, but it's not going to come out for at least until the summer. But you should really check out that series. I mean, the reason I said this stuff is because I was inspired to create an album from this stuff.
Yeah.
And not only did I enjoy it, but I also wanted to do kind of a soundtrack, not necessarily a soundtrack, but like a re-envisionment of the essence of this weird little town, where things just circulate and happen over and over and over again. You don't really realize it until the end, but I'm still not ruining it for you when I say that.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, I don't know.
That sounds great, though. I'm really excited about that. I also just love British television as well.
Yeah, it does bring it back around to the Bryan Lewis Saunders tape too, because that one is kind of like not necessarily meant to be a soundtrack per se. It's kind of like this thought experiment on this concept that it's like an experience that has abstract interpretations, and I just sort of did abstract interpretations for a feeling that one might get from the subject matter or whatever. So I don't know. I'm talking about myself too much, I think.
No, it's fine. I mean, that's usually what an interview is. I mean, I guess this is turning into another interview. So.
Well, yeah, I do appreciate you doing this. I mean, I hate to, I think last time we talked, it was like you thought that I cut you off or something, and I didn't mean to. So, I'm all available. I think I hung up early or something.
Oh no, I was just I forget what it was. It didn't really matter. But yeah, it caught me by surprise. Oh, I thought we were gonna talk for like a few minutes after I ended the episode, but yeah, that was fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it wasn't about anything specific. I was just going to say, like, thank you again. Just if, I don't know. There was, like, no intention in it. It just caught me by surprise. I wasn't, like, offended or anything.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually good. But,
that's ideal. It's ideal for you not to be offended, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, I try not to offend other people as well. It's usually good in a social situation to everybody to be happy. Poor Boris.
I read, I offended somebody on the train today.
Wow.
There's the long part of it is that there was a girl who her hand was on a rail, and I looked at her palm, and I said, "Hey, can I look at your palm? I'm studying palmistry." She had a lifeline in a section of her hand that would suggest that she is possibly psychic, and I told her so. And so we had a short conversation, and then this dude sitting next to me said, "Okay, well, I'm intrigued now. What do you say about my hand?" And I looked at his hand, and I had like 4 things that I could say, but the first thing I had to say, because it was the most glaring, and it's always the hardest thing for me to do, is that what I want to do is put the hardest thing in front and wrap it up with better stuff, right?
Okay.
The hardest thing to describe, the hardest thing to tell somebody is that, did I tell you this before?
I don't think so.
Did I ever talk about? Okay.
Yeah.
So you put your fingers together. Your fingers are all straight. Your thumb is against your palm and all that. Your fingers are all totally straight and, not curving or bending at all. And if your pinky is shorter than the little mark on the top, like the last of your ring finger, the last indent of your ring finger, if your pinky is shorter than that, it means that you've been neglected as a child. And that could mean that you were either abused as a child or ignored, or it could mean that you're given too much attention. Like, that is the same thing to the brain. If you were given too much attention, you were neglected from your own personal experience. So, that balance is really hard to strike. And I've seen so many hands that have short pinkies, and it's just it never gets easier. It's like, how do you tell somebody that it's obvious that they're fucked up? They were fucked up as a child. And I don't have that problem with my pinky, but I have all kinds of other stuff that could tell you that I'm fucked up. It's like it's not about fortune telling or anything like that. It's about the fact that the brain is connected to more nerves in the hand than any other part of the body. So you're just going to get different patterns and stuff. But I was going to tell him all these other positive things to reinforce that, but he's like, okay. Then he gets off the train. So I'm just like, well, I pissed him off. You know.
Oh well. I would assume it wouldn't ruin his day. I mean, if this is like his first exposure to palm reading, I assume he just like he's not taking it
Oh,
too seriously.
Well, he wanted me to tell him that he was psychic or gifted, or he wanted me to tell him something good because I told this girl something good, and I only gave her positive stuff because I only saw positive stuff.
Yeah.
But for him, I only saw negative stuff. I mean, I saw some more positive stuff, but for instance, he had a curve around a line that represents the emotions. He had a curve that went into a certain area between his fingers that would suggest that he has a sort of inclination to have unusual sexual preferences, and or he doesn't have a very strict rule about gender. I mean, for him, I think that would have been a very negative thing because he was also a very physical and literal person. I could tell by his palm.
Yeah.
And I also told him that his lifeline, his pattern in life is extremely about energy and physicality. He doesn't have much of the life of the mind. And it's like I'm just reading this stuff like it's a book. I'm not actually I'm not good at being sensitive to a person's emotions when it comes to that stuff. So.
Oh. Shit.